Welcome to the Bombshell Business Podcast, where driven fempreneurs learn how to become more bold, brave, and unwaveringly confident. Turn your dreams into actionable, marketable, and profitable plans and make your business irresistible.
Welcome back to the Bombshell Business Podcast. I'm your host, Amber, the Velvet Machete Hurdle, coming to you to help you become a bold, brave, and unwaveringly confident fempreneur with amazing guests with super awesome advice. And we're going to dig into today's probably one of the episodes I've been most excited about, because it's something that I believe in that not everybody quite understands. And so I've got the perfect person to break all that down for you. But before we even get into that part of the show, I want to give a couple shout outs to you, Bombshell listeners. So I want to first thank, I think it's Carrie Lead or maybe Carrie L. I'm not real sure. Carrie, girl. I'm butchering your name, but here we go. She says, brilliant. This is in iTunes. Brilliant. All entrepreneurs need to check this out. Great content and actionable advice. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Carrie. I'm going to. I've said it a million times, running a podcast, hosting a podcast is not the easiest thing in the world, but it's encouragement like this and knowing that it's making a difference. It makes me keep recording and keep doing this. And it is kind of fun. So I'll give you that. I have somebody here who says, great for women in wellness. I absolutely love listening to this podcast. Amber has found the perfect balance of reaching out to women in the business world and showing them how to embrace their divine feminine in the professional arena. If I've learned anything from this show, it's been about learning to become clear in who I am as a person and as a businesswoman. And now I can authentically integrate that into running a successful business. Love you, Amber. I love you. That is amazing. I am so excited for you. That is a lot to, I think maybe one of the things that I love most about being a fempreneur is for us, it's so much bigger than just dollars and cents. And there's so much learning and self-exploration that happens, and we're able to bless other people through our businesses. So that's incredibly meaningful to me, and I want to thank you. And then last but certainly not least, Dreaming153 says, thank you. Thanks for all of the bombshell advice you offer here, Amber. I'm working my way through your archives from the very beginning, and every episode is packed with great advice. I am so grateful, and I am grateful for you for listening, and especially for taking the time to give that feedback so that other women can see what it is that I'm trying to do here. And if you have not listened to every episode, I encourage you to go to the very beginning and just start listening from episode 1, because I lay things out in a sequential way so that you can build your knowledge base in a way that makes sense. So thank you for all of that. Let's move on to today's interview. I'm so excited. With me today is Maggie Frank-Shu. She is an online marketing consultant, someone I have worked with. She is a friend of mine, and she helps women who have grown their businesses purely through sweat, tears, and grit, and now want a growth strategy that allows them to earn consistent income they can count on and frees up their time so they can work on the parts of the business that they really love. And I, from personal experience, can say that this woman is like a magician, and she makes things happen, and you just have to do your part, and then she does her part, and then things just happen, like they just magically do what they're supposed to do, and you can focus on the parts of your business that you love. So without further ado, Maggie, welcome to the Bombshell Business Podcast. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying all those nice things. I really appreciate that.
I'll expect the check next week. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is how to use, don't get freaked out, how to use Facebook ads to promote your business without breaking the bank. So before we get into that, Maggie, tell us just a little bit more about you, because you've got a lot of layers to your life, like most bombshells do.
Sure. So take a deep breath here. I started out as so I'll give you the super short version, but I started out as a journalist and worked a lot in content. And that's really important to the way that I approach marketing now. I think it's really important to have something to say. A lot of times people want to know all these tips and tactics and ninja tricks and stuff. And none of that works if you don't have a compelling message. So I tend to work with people like you, and all my clients have a really clear understanding of what they're trying to say or who they're trying to help. And so that's one thing. That's how I kind of came to marketing, from this sort of very, first as a journalist and then just a copy editor and working with words a lot. I live in San Diego, which is, one of the greatest things that has ever happened to me. 2.5 years ago from New York City, where I lived for my entire adult life. I have a 2.5-year-old son. My mom lives here too, and my husband lives here. So pretty much, and his mom and his sister. So everyone's kind of out here, which is nice. What else do you want to know?
Well, I think that covers that. I mean, you have a definite background in a super professional career, so I love establishing that credibility. It's not like you just woke up one day and you're like, hey, I'm going to do Facebook ads and help people build their email lists. Like, you actually have a history that brings that skill set to the table. And I think it's also important to point out, you just mentioned not just your son and your husband, but your extended family. And I think that's something that a lot of bombshells can connect to, is that we are involved with our families, and we have a lot of roles that we play. So I think that's one of the things I love most about you too, is you keep it real. So
yeah. And I think I want to say, so just that to make the point that I do work with women. That's my focus. I mean, definitely not women only. Like, if it's a good fit, I'll work with whomever, but I tend to work with women. If they're not so completely solo, it's usually a pretty small business. And the reason I picked that, and really what I work with, with my highest end stuff, is bloggers, who are selling their own products online. So they are writers, so there's a lot of simpatico there between us, but I really picked this group of people to work with since I've been out on my own and not working in corporate anymore, because I'm really inspired by what women do. And I mean, men are great, and men do a lot. My husband does a whole lot, and lots of men I know do a whole lot. But this sort of combination of things that women do, and how flexible women are, especially when they're out on their own, and also when they have kids. It's really fun to work with people like that. So, that's my business is really working a lot with women like you.
Yay. And we need you. Okay. So tell us then, like, let's just say that I'm a boutique, a local boutique in a small to medium size, city, or maybe a salon, or maybe I'm a fitness center, and I know, like, I'm like boosting posts because Facebook offers this thing, and I'm just not, like, I don't get it. I'm not really sure what it is that I'm trying to do with Facebook ads. Talk to me. What am I doing wrong, and where am I not getting this?
Okay, so I think, like, those kind of businesses definitely, and I'd love to hear from your listeners if I'm wrong about this, but lead generation is really important. So in other words, like, you definitely want to talk about how you stand out as a salon or as a fitness center from all the other ones in town, or in the 3 towns or whatever around. But you just really want to get a lot of people to know about you too. And so boost posts seems like it would be logical. It's right there. Every time you share a post on Facebook, and also on Instagram, if you have it set up for your business, they will beg you to spend $5 on it. So don't do that. I mean, spoiler alert. So yeah, if you've been doing that, you didn't ruin anything. You didn't do anything bad. But, my advice, and this applies to local businesses in a particular way, and it also applies to probably everyone who's listening, especially if you're on your own or you're running a really lean, mean operation. You always want to spend money on Facebook with an eye toward how you're going to earn it back plus, right?
Right.
So maybe you're not. So when you spend $5 to boost a post, you'll never earn that money back. the way that I'm going to talk about spending money on Facebook, you also may not earn that money back right away, but when you find the system that works for your business, eventually you will be able to spend money that comes back to you and then some. And that's really what you want to think about with Facebook and Instagram ads, which are the same thing, right? Because Facebook owns Instagram. If you're putting money out there, there needs to be a way to track how you earn it back. So that sounds really daunting. Like, how do you do that? The way that I found that works best for the people I work with is by creating a campaign. So when I talk about a marketing campaign, it's just what's the difference between a campaign and boosting a post? A campaign has a goal, and the goal has numbers on it. Like, I want to have 10, if it's a fitness center, I want to have 10 people walk in here and go through my, whatever it is you do to onboard people, like go through and have a free pass day and get the sign up pitch. I want to have 10 people coming from Facebook ads doing that in 2 weeks. So that's a goal for a campaign. Or, really just, I want to sell X things in Y days is a goal, or I want to have X consultations in Y days is a goal. And then a campaign also has a strategy. So what you're going to do, just like, what's the thing you're going to do? Are you going to, obviously, if you're going to buy a series of Facebook ads, what's that going to look like? I talk a lot about webinars because I find they're really effective, so a webinar is like a strategy. 5-day challenge, which you and I worked on, Amber, is a strategy. And then a campaign has tactics. So it has like a plan. This is something you and I worked on a lot, like figuring out every single thing you're going to do. But the cool thing about a campaign, to back up a little, is that, so it's specific in all these ways. It's results oriented, right? So you're saying, I'm going to have this many people come in this many days, and then everything you do needs to track back to that result, to the numbers in your objective. And then it's time bound. This is my favorite thing about a campaign for small business and solopreneurs is it's time bound. So you do this, you do this Facebook ad thing, like everything I'm going to talk about today involves Facebook ads, but whatever it is, you do this thing, it takes, 3 days to plan and 7 days to execute and 3 days to do the postmortem, and then it's over.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it, right? Because if you do boost post, so that's why boost post is not a campaign. Like it's not a campaign for a whole lot of reasons, but my biggest thing with it is it's not time bound. So you're not learning anything from boosting posts, except that you might feel like if you do it a few times and you do it to the same audience and you spend $5 every time, then okay, it costs me $5 to reach X amount of people. It's always going to be the same, right? That's all you learn from boost posts. But
you've reached a certain number, but you don't really know who those people are, or if reaching them is going to turn into cash in the end.
Yeah, because you haven't given that audience a next step. Like if you boost a post, the call to action. So this is like a marketing jargony thing. Call to action means the thing you are asking the audience to do. Like, so every social media post has that. With boost posts, it's usually you're asking them to click the link, but you're not asking them to take another step with your business. So you have no sense of like what percentage of that audience even will go the next step and like give you their email address, which we're going to talk about, or come into the shop if you have a physical. You have no idea. So all you kind of get is this anecdotal evidence if people come in and happen to mention that they saw you on Facebook, or if they happen to remember that was the first place they heard of you. And you're probably, that probably feels really inconsistent to most people listening, that they're probably not getting like hundreds of people pouring into the shop from a boost post.
Yeah.
So,
and then they're like, well, Facebook ads don't work. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's my number one strategy. Like, right. I don't understand.
But that's why I don't want to take, a big poop all over boost posts more than I have to, but that is why they are not they don't fit into this idea of a campaign, because obviously you don't make your money back on them, but also you don't learn anything from them. And what I love about the strategies I think we're going to talk about today is, even if, so I said, like, set a goal. So 10 consultations in 14 days. Even if you don't get 10 consultations in 14 days, you can look back on what you did, because you set up a specific strategy, you carried out these tactics, and you can look all along the way and see, where did you lose people? So did you lose them? Like, was it really expensive to reach them on Facebook, or was it like later on, like the next step that you took with them? Like, did you have a really low rate of email sign up, or when you emailed them, did nobody open the email? So there's all these, and I hope that doesn't sound too confusing, but there's all these places along the way in a campaign where you can look back when it's over, and you can actually pinpoint the times where, you lost them. And that's what I really like about it too, because if you spend the money and you don't earn it back, at least you learn something from what happened. And so you can look back and also it's over, right? And so if you don't have time, but like a month later, or when you do have time again, or when you have a VA or somebody who can help you and you can afford to help get them to do this again, then you can not repeat the same mistakes. So you actually move forward every time you execute a campaign, even if you don't reach the goal of the campaign.
Right, because every I just said this morning to a friend. She was frustrated with some of her results, and I told her, and she said, "Okay, that makes me feel better." I'm like, small business is a petri dish. I mean, it is an ongoing experiment, and even if you don't get like scientifically what you want in the end, you know what doesn't work. And then you go back to the drawing board, you create a new hypothesis. And I'm not a science person, but that's just how I look at things. Like I try all different kinds of things, trying to narrow it down to, okay, well, what's really going to work? And so when things don't work, it's like, okay, well, just like you said, and I just want to break that process down real quick, because I think we kind of went through it very quickly. And so I'm gonna want to give like a story example. So sure. I own a yoga studio, and I want to increase my my number of monthly memberships, not just people who are buying a one-off class, but people who are going to commit to like an annual agreement with a monthly fee, so that I know that I have consistent income coming in. So passive, consistent income. And then those of you who are in online marketing, maybe you're coaches or things like that, you can kind of follow along however this works for you. So I'm a yoga studio. I want monthly memberships. And so I create a Facebook ad. I don't boost a post, and I don't say, come in today and talk with one of our people to, see what it's like to be a member here, because it's very unlikely upon a first exposure that somebody's going to be like, okay. And they, that one time when they're waiting on an appointment at the doctor's and they're scrolling through their phone and they see your ad, they don't put on their to-do list, oh, go to this new yoga studio. They might even forget about you. But if you give them something immediate to do right then, like here's a coupon for half off your dues, or, so I don't know what it is, whatever that is, for a free class. Here's a coupon for a free class. Join us. You can click right then and there, get the coupon to the free class in exchange for your email address, because of course they want to email you that free coupon. And so at that point, Maggie, what does a smart yoga studio do who has created this ad based on demographics, like how close they are to the studio, if they're male or female, if they're millennial or Gen X, if they like other online yoga instructors? There's lots of parameters that you could put around when you're not just boosting a post. You could be very specific in who you're targeting. So once yoga studio owner Bombshell gets this email address and she has sent that person a coupon for a free class, what happens next?
Okay. Well, I actually want to back up into and like further pull apart a couple of things you said in your example. Awesome. So
That's why she's the expert, people.
Yeah. Wait, I just blanked on one of the big ones. What was it? So you said that a person goes, they make their Facebook ad, they choose their targeting. If you go, so just to make clear so she's saying don't boost post. So what that means is you go to facebook.com/ads/manager, and that's where you set up the ad, because that's going to give you access to all these different interest groups that you can target. With cold audience targeting. The other thing I wanted to say is, so what you described, there's so many, it's not affiliated with me in any way, but I had this light bulb moment when I read this article, about what you said. Like, if you offer, hey, come into the yoga studio, that is too big of a leap. Like, you skipped like 2 or 3 things you should have asked them to do first. And it's really important to understand that when you buy a Facebook ad, especially for this example, I would say this is pretty much tried and true. You're not leaping to the sale. What you're asking them to do is not buy. You're asking them to take the next step with you, especially if you're selling something. So it depends on how much the thing is worth, right? I guess like you see Amazon ads on Facebook, right? They are really good at targeting, and they will just sell you the deal of the day. But what you're talking about is selling something that is much more expensive because it's like a monthly membership. So that customer is worth a lot more. So you want to spend a little bit more money and time changing them from a stranger, which is the first point of contact you'll make with them on the Facebook ad, to someone who is really interested in, finding out more about you. And then you probably, I think in your example, you always make the sale in person. And I'm actually going to email you the article where this guy explains it like 100 times better than I just did. But it's a really profound thing to start thinking about. And I mean it, like selling and stuff gets such a bad rap, but it feels really like a huge pressure release when you know that every point of contact with a new prospect is not about pressuring them to buy.
Yeah.
It's just about finding out if they even care about yoga. That's like the first thing, and like then kind of moving along a path with them to a point where you found somebody that is looking for a yoga studio, has the money to spend, will really benefit. I mean, this is like, obviously you're not going to have this ideally happen every single time, but that is the ideal, is you found someone who needs you or really loves what you're selling. And then it's this feeling of like you're helping them. So, okay. So not to get, but that like, I'm super passionate about that, because I find almost all the time when I work with clients that they get really weird about selling. They either like never do it, they hate selling and they just want everyone to come to them, or they're really pushy because they don't really understand that there's like this other way, which is just sort of like first understanding if you're relevant to the person and if they care.
Yeah. Come do yoga, and you're talking to somebody that, can't sit still for more than 2 seconds, who, by the way, probably needs yoga, but maybe they're not ready for you yet. Right. And so you don't want to, if you bring a bunch of people into your studio, and again, you could be online, you could be an attorney, there's so many different ways you could look at this. But in the case of this example, if you are marketing to people who are not ready to buy from you, you are not going to have any idea of what your real closing ratio is. So you will never understand how many people do I have to get into the door how many qualified leads do I need to get into the door in order to convert them into members? And then you're going to be flailing around trying to help people who don't want your help. And that's not good. So
that's the magic word. And you could feel totally deflated if you're with 10 people and they're not qualified. So the magic word is qualified. They're never going to buy. They don't need it. Or if they're not ready, and you make 0 sales, then you're going to feel really bad. But if you have a process whereby you qualify 10 people so they're interested, doesn't mean all 10 will buy. And you sell 3 or you sell 4 or whatever, it's just going to be this different feeling. So it really I mean, anyway, I'm speaking from personal experience that I had a moment in my business or time in my business. This doesn't even have anything to do with ads or tactics, but just overall where I was selling to people that weren't a good fit. And then, if you get somebody that's not a good fit, that's not good for your business because then you're not really happy doing that work. And if you don't sell to anybody, then you feel like, well, what did I do wrong? And it's not about that. It's just about finding the fit. So that's why people like me yammer on and on about like finding the right fit. And it sounds really gimmicky, but it's really not. So anyway, okay. But I want to go back to your example, Facebook ad. So you buy the Facebook ad. Another thing you said in your example was the coupon. So that's a really good example of an offer. So in the Facebook ad, the things that should be really clear are what are you offering them? So what's the offer? I think this is something that people miss the mark on all the time. They will talk about their business or they will try to sell, right? We talked about that, which is really trying to get the person to do something. The ad needs to have something in it for the person. For the person, what am I saying? For the person it's appeared to, for the audience member, for the whatever, this cold person that's never heard of you before. So coupons are a really good example of an offer. And then what Amber was saying is when they click through, they go to a landing page on your website and you ask them for their email address in exchange for the coupon. So just to put it back into my rubric of what I said. So you can do this, but I would have, before you do any of this, I would structure a campaign so that you have an objective, a strategy. The tactics are what Amber talked about, which is this Facebook ad that has a coupon and they only get the coupon if they give their email address. That's a tactic, right? And then how will you measure if it works? So in your example, so I'd want to hear what's this yoga studio's objective? Like how many subscriptions do they want to sell? And they should put like a number on it that feels like a reach, but also isn't like a million because,
right.
So, and it helps. So the first time you do a campaign, you won't know, but if you do it a few times, you'll really know how to set this number because let's say you say that you want to sell 10 subscriptions. So no, you want to get 10 qualified leads in the door for a free class in 2 weeks or something. So then you run this Facebook ad campaign for 2 weeks. And so what you can do, is work backwards. So if you're saying you want 10, then if you go backward one step, well, how many people need to get the coupon? And you'll know after you do this a couple of times, like do 2% of people who receive a coupon use it or 20%, right? So then let's say it's 20%. So you said you wanted 10 in the door. So you need to get this coupon to 50 people because out of 50 people, 10 will actually show up. So that means you need 50 people to sign up for your email list. So if you work backwards one more time, well, how much does it cost you in Facebook ads to get 50 people to sign up for your email list? And that's something you'll learn when you run the campaign a couple of times. And the reason you said, Amber, or the reason I claim that this saves you money is it does. Because so when you learn how much it costs you to get 50 people to sign up for email, you can be super focused on just buying ads that do that versus like, okay, I'm also going to spend $10 on Boost Posts this week. And I'm also going to try to buy Facebook likes and all these other things that do not have ROI, do not put cash back in your pocket. Right. So this is why I believe that my method saves you money. It's not that you won't spend money on Facebook ads. It's just that you'll be able to track a rate of return on it, and you won't spend money on anything that doesn't get you some kind of return.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That total sense. And I just want to add that I know a lot of local businesses especially spend money on all different types of advertising. So it might be that they run ads in the newspaper, or maybe they, a lot of people will buy, and I'm getting real small town now, but they'll buy like sponsorships and like baseball, books, or, they'll put their name on a banner, or they'll do all these different things, and they don't bat an eyelash to sponsor a nonprofit event that doesn't have their target audience attending it. And I'm not saying don't sponsor nonprofit events, but I'm saying if you're doing it with the intention of calling it marketing and expecting some form of a return on your investment, like cold hard cash, and you're doing that, they don't bat an eyelash to do like a $250, $500 sponsorship. But the minute that you say, what if you put that $250 or $500 into Facebook ads, where you can actually pick the people who you're targeting, and then get them on an email list where you get to keep talking to them even after that whole experience is done, which is what you can't do with a nonprofit event. Again, not beating up on nonprofits, but just from a marketing perspective. It just seems so foreign to them. So what are some...
Yeah. Sorry, ask your question.
Well, I was going to say, what are some of the objections that you hear when you're like, okay, so we need a budget of $500 to spend for the next however many weeks on Facebook ads. Like, do people freak out?
Sometimes. So the first thing I was going to say is that's why I think Boost Post is so popular, is because, well, first of all, it's right in your face. So if you're running your Facebook page, you're seeing it, and then you're like, I guess this is the way I'm supposed to use this. That's what I would think, right? It's like, if they're putting it in my face, this must be the right way to use Facebook ads.
Right.
And then another reason I think people don't question it is because in all these other forms of advertising, there isn't tracking. So like if you buy, another example that popped out at me is if you put a coupon, you pay to put a coupon in the value pack. Like, I don't know if you have that, but I feel like it's everywhere I've lived, they have it. It's like you get this envelope filled with coupons like once a week. I always throw it away straight in the garbage personally, because I can't deal with having coupons and papers in my house. But a lot of local businesses buy, they will pay to put their coupon in there. Well, what kind of data does Value Pack give you? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but they don't tell you anything about, they just tell you how many people your coupon went to, but you have no idea the rate, like what percentage of those people are relevant for you besides the fact that they live in your town. And like how many of them use, I guess you can, if you're tracking like how many people show up with the coupon in their hand to your business, then you have some sense. If you're not tracking that, you should, and you're paying for Value Pack, you should start. But yeah, I think people are just really used to being fuzzy on paid marketing and how they make the money back. And this is not, Facebook ads is their ads, but, so yeah, sometimes like people will buy ads and they're not expecting to make money back. They have some other objective in mind. But for people like us, which is lean, mean entrepreneurs, where it's bootstrapped, we really, if there is an opportunity to track and make all your money back, then you need to
sign me up for that.
You need to start, and it's hard. It's not so easy. I think the things we're talking about are complicated.
Yeah.
But, the concept is not complicated. The concept is if you put money in, you should be making it back when it comes to Facebook ads. And the people who are doing this successfully, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So your other question about, do people balk if I need a budget? So that's what's cool about campaigns. Keep harping on this, but the example I gave, so if you want 10 consultations to show up, to take a free class, consultation is probably not the right word, but 10 people to show up and take a free class. And, so let's make this example go all the way to the sale. So maybe eventually your goal is actually to get 50 people in the door because your conversion rate. So if you get 50 people in for a free class, if you were like the most slamming yoga studio and doing really awesome. Let's say you were having a 5% of people who took a free class from you sign up, and now they're monthly subscribers. So if you got 50 people showing up, then what is that? 2 or 3? I mean, 5% is, oh my God, I just lost my 50. Yeah, it's like 2.5 people. So 50 is not a good number, but if you had 100 people show up, then 5 people would actually buy the monthly subscription, right?
Right.
Okay. So if you know that you need 5 people to buy the monthly subscription every 3 months for your business to really thrive, and I'm making up like, I don't know, I don't own a yoga studio, so if these are dumb numbers, sorry, but then
they're ones that we can wrap our minds around when driving down the car listening to this podcast.
Every 3 months. And so you need to get 100 people in the door with that free class coupon. So that means, and again, we work backwards. So that means we need to get 500 people that coupon because only 20% of them actually use it. So then we work backwards again. Well, how much does it cost me to get 500 people to sign up for my email list? That's the amount of money I would ask the person for Facebook ads. And so, you know, if we would, the way we would work together is we would keep working on Facebook ads and keep messing with the pictures, the copy, and most importantly, the targeting. So who are we targeting on Facebook ads to make sure you're spending the least amount of money to get 500 email signups so that you can get that 100 people who actually use the coupon so that you can get the 5 people who actually sign up for the subscription rate. So that's really understanding how much each customer in your business is worth. For this yoga studio example, it's really easy. Well, I think, because all you would have to do is look back at your roster and how long are people usually members of your studio. Let's say the average is 3 years or something, and you're charging $60 a month. So you would do 60 times 36 months, and that's how much your customer, and I have to like open my calculator to know how much money that is. 60 times 36. So that the average customer in that situation is worth $2,160. So if you get them to sign up, that's over $10,000. So if I'm asking you to spend $500 on Facebook ads to make $10,000, I am an amazing Facebook ads consultant, and you should never, ever, ever let me go.
And send me flowers.
Okay. So this is a really good, we've run into like, by now, you know, if people are still listening, then they're like, this is really complicated. If you feel that way and you want to hire somebody to do this, these are the kinds of things that they should be saying to you, or these are the kinds of questions you should be asking. It's not about give me $500 and my rate is, you know, however much they charge. They all it runs the gamut completely. It's about, if they make $10,000 for you that you wouldn't have made, then then you can kind of figure out how much their services are worth and how much you should be spending on them and on their ads. So that's kind of the way that I would look at hiring somebody. And I see almost nobody do this, like including when I'm interviewed and when people decide to hire me, they don't think like that. They want to work with someone. They kind of more, and this is good too. You want to look for someone who has experience. Other people are saying good things about them. They seem like they have their, you know, poop together and stuff like that. But, you know, that's great. And someone who's talking like this will also have all those other things. But yeah, if you start talking cause it's not location based. Like you could hire somebody in San Diego like me, or somebody in Alaska to do your ads if you live in Lebanon, Tennessee. And so you can look nationally and find like the best person to work with. And you'll know they're the best, you know, if they're talking to you about like, you know, I might need $500, but I'm going to make you $10,000. So just think like that.
And I'm going to help you track it. So for me, it costs me on average about $2 for an email address. So that's the average for me. So when I spend whatever, it's going to cost me $2. So, but if somebody decides to work with me one-on-one, or even if they buy my boot camp, or they bring me in as a speaker, like, I don't even care about that little $2, right? I mean, that's less than a cup of coffee anymore for one person. So I want it, and I'm not belittling anybody's bootstrap budget either, because there are times where, like, that's just not financially the feasible thing to do. So if you're getting started, and where I started a couple years ago, do it yourself, which is like, who has time for that? Thus Maggie. But when I first started learning how to do this, and Facebook changes all of the time, so that's a challenge if you're going to try to do it yourself. I started just with $50 a month, and that gave me enough money to play, and it gave me enough money to screw up and not, like, cry about it. And that's when I started figuring out how to actually use the platform. But what it also did is it made me familiar enough that when I started talking to different people, I could see through the BS. And then once I talked to Maggie, and she started talking about all the different strategies and how it was going to be tracked, and, what the goal for the conversion was and everything, I was like, okay, this girl has her poop in a group, therefore I can trust her. And then she just told me what to do, and I did it. Like, that's how that worked. So that's the kind of, and we've talked about this when we talked to Jessica McIntosh about photography, and Anthony Tran about web design. If you can't trust your vendor, whether it's Maggie or whoever you choose to work with in terms of Facebook ads, if you can't trust them to have your best interest at heart and to also educate you along the process, it's the wrong vendor. There's so many fly-by-night online marketing companies out there who are learning as they're going, and you're their guinea pig, and they're charging you full price to be their guinea pig, and that's not okay. So you need somebody like Maggie who's experienced. So we've gone a little bit over, but I think it's been very well worth it to talk about how strategic Facebook ads. And while I'm thinking about it too, let me add one thing. When Maggie and I worked on our campaign together, I found out things about audience behavior, and about what images I have that got the most engagement, and what type of body copy and calls to action that we used, because she is like the mega A/B tester, which that just stresses me out to try to do like 5 different versions of something. I think, I don't even remember how many you did, Maggie, but it was a lot. And so she would turn off one campaign that wasn't performing well, and then she would add more people to another one that was performing better based on imagery and the words that she chose to use. And so now I can use that same information in other marketing adventures, and I can use the picture in a different way, that because I already know that that's what my audience is drawn to. So there's the short-term financial, return on your investment or ROI, but then there's the long-term and really having the statistics to tell you who your audience is and what they like and they don't like. So this was a lot to take in, Maggie.
Yeah.
You have something.
I hope that I didn't get, I get excited, and I hope I didn't go to an overwhelming place. You really can start very small. You absolutely can start with a $50 budget or $25 budget, as long as you have. And so for the yoga studio example, then just spend $25 on the coupon, see how many people you get. And then next month, when you have $25 again, change the images around, change one thing, change either if you weren't happy with the results, change the images or change the text, make it shorter or longer, and try again. So you can start really small. I hope that that's clear.
Yes.
And that's the way when I start with clients, we work with what they have, and you can always, if you do this campaign method, you always get something out of it, I think 25 is probably the least amount I would, but I feel like people can spare $25 in their business in a month. So,
yeah. No, I think everything that we've talked about today, Maggie, I mean, it is, when you think about having to figure all of it out in the context of your business, it can feel overwhelming. But what's gold about today's episode and all the awesome that you've shared is that now perhaps a listener who has never explored Facebook ads before, targeted Facebook ads as opposed to just boosting a post, now they get it. Now they understand why you would go to the trouble of going into the ads manager instead of just boosting a post. So we're starting with knowledge.
Right.
And if you're as driven as most bombshells are, then you might go in there and start tinkering with it and doing a little experimentation. And if you're as busy as most bombshells are and you have a budget, then you might want to learn more about Maggie. So
Right.
you've got a downloadable PDF that you're going to share the link with me. I'm going to put it in the show notes so that people can learn more and have something to support their efforts. So tell us about that.
Yes. So it's very simple because I made it on Word. So it's really a worksheet for you to go through and develop this campaign that, we spent the whole time talking about. So what's your objective? What are you going to do? How are you going to measure? And gives you a little bit of guidance along the way. And then there's also a ton of resources. Once you get into this, of course you can ignore all these links, but there are some really, really smart people out there that can help you along the way to figure out how to do this yourself or figure out, just kind of the art of ads. So I'll share some resources. Obviously, my own blog is one of them, but there's a lot of people that I have no relationship with. They're big names in this industry, and I just would feel I feel like remiss if I didn't share a bunch of links to some of their best stuff that can really get you started. So that's going to be the PDF, and you can find the link to that in Amber's show notes, it sounds like.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. And so you can also find out more about Maggie in general by going to her website, MaggieFrankShu.com. And Shu is HSU. We're having a little lesson in Chinese today. Yes. And that will also be in the show notes if that's hard for you to just remember and type in later. And then we'll, of course, put all of her social media links in the show notes as well so that you can follow along and learn from her as you're just going about your normal everyday social media activity. Is there any parting advice that you want to offer, Maggie, to our bombshells?
Yeah. So definitely, parting advice. Let me think for a second. So pick a budget, pick a goal, figure out your budget, and then just try this once, I would say. That's my parting advice is I was teaching this last week in a class, and I had a very lovely person. She's a friend. We've worked together. She's in a different industry. And she was just like, well, she had all the objections to why this won't work. And I said, if you don't do it, 100% guarantee you it won't work.
Right.
If you do it, you don't know what you're going to find out. So that's kind of what drives me forward in continuing to do entrepreneurship is just if I keep putting one foot in front of the other, I'm going to find out all kind of new things. If I give up now, I'm going to just know I'm just done, And so, my parting advice is to try this once with a budget that you feel comfortable, not making back perhaps, and then just see what you learn. And if you go to my website, my contact info is on there. If you actually do this and then reach out to me with questions about how to understand what happened, I'm happy to answer them. So there's another little insurance policy for people definitely learn something if you give this a try. So I really encourage you to just do it and don't stop thinking about it.
Yeah. It's no overthinking involved. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for being on the Bombshell Business Podcast. I think you've really served a lot of women in business today through your comments.
I hope so. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
For sure. All right, that's going to do it for today. I know we went a little bit over, but when we start getting into more technical talk like this, I just don't want to do you a disservice by cutting it short and leaving you with questions. So be sure to go to the show notes. That's at amberhurdle.com maggies.com/podcasts with an S, and look for Maggie's episode. All of the links will be in the show notes, including the link to her document that is not over techie and definitely bombshell friendly that you can use to start your very first Facebook ad campaign. Be sure if you love this podcast and you want to help other women find it so that they can get the same source of information to help become more bold, brave, and unwaveringly confident fempreneurs, then please go over to iTunes and leave a review. It's super easy to do, and it would mean a lot to me, and I might even give you a shout out on the show. So until next time, keep going out there, keep grinding, and believe in yourself, and all the things that you're doing will produce fruit if you just keep going. Have a great day, Bombshell.
Thanks for listening to the Bombshell Business Podcast. Visit amberhurdle.com for more resources and be sure to tune in again. Cheers to you, Bombshell.